yeah. I hesitated because I'm not, I'm very British and feel I should be invited.
Okay. Oh, look, and I'm very Australian and I don't know about being polite. Tell us where you're up to on this journey, this spiritual stuff, this whatever.
Okay, so briefly, I'm an LU graduate, thanks to LU and Elan,
Uh-huh.
about 4 or 5 months ago.
Right.
And then, and so that was sort of very exciting at first. Um, and then, I was quite happy to just metabolize what was going on. Um, but I suppose, well, two things. One is a question, and one is this business about more. Um, yeah, the seduction of, there's
Yes.
more out there.
Yeah. I get that. When you give up identity, you give up identifying with. And after LU, you kind of give up identifying with the old ways. But that can leave you with a genuine guilt, grief, something missing. The old way was familiar as much as it had a whole lot of ups and downs, but more downs, I guess. We were familiar with it, and to lose that familiarity is interesting. So tell me this: would you, being very loose with language, would you say that you woke up as a result of LU, and then months later you feel like you lost it?
Um, well, I suppose this sort of immediate cause of waking up, if assuming that's what happened, uh, was definitely catalyzed by LU. But cause, I mean,
Yes,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
tell a story about cause, it's difficult.
Yeah, we're not looking for proof. No, I was just asking for what you had felt like. What was your response to the conditions that turned up for you?
Okay.
So obviously after LU, you were feeling pretty good, eh?
Yes, although it's odd because if I hadn't, I wasn't doing LU every day for months. And if it hadn't been banging on so much about self and is it, isn't it, where is it, all that, I'm not absolutely sure I would have been able to put on my finger on what had happened.
Mm.
And I do find it quite difficult to think back about, what was my mind operating on before that
Yeah,
happened. I
yeah.
find it hard to rewind there.
Let's put
But
aside that's
that
the
did feel good if that's what we were fishing for.
yeah. And the time since then has, would you describe that as, give it a direction? Was it uphill, downhill, coasting along
Well,
on the flat?
I was cruising for a while, and definitely cruising for a while, and now I think, thought, I think, um, well, two things. One is a sort of concern about, I sometimes just lose the plot. I'd like to ask if, I'm an old lady, am I dementing? I have to make lists for things now
Yeah,
because
yeah, I
I
get that. Yeah.
um, because otherwise I just faff about, I'm just, I don't even do the things that I said I would do, even saying to myself that I would do. So that's sort of unraveled a bit. And I can sort of think there might be a reason for that, but I am a bit concerned, am I going batty sort of concerned?
Well, let's handle that before you go on. I
Okay.
think that's a very important one. I hear stories again and again and again, and it certainly is my own experience that my memory has gone to shit totally.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I hear lots and lots of people talk about that as a result of, well, they say as a result of, but who knows? But it seems to synchronize with after whatever this thing is we call waking up. Right? That's that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm an old person too. So I am immediately, we start to go, well, God, is it the beginning of the end? Is it Alzheimer's encroaching and so on? Well, these days I just laugh at it. It's not, it doesn't mean anything. It's, I kind of feel like sometimes I probably could remember if I put a lot of effort into it. But you know what? I couldn't be bothered. I don't want to.
Yeah.
So it's like almost forgetting by choice. It's like it wasn't worth filing away. Why would I carry it around with me?
Yeah. I can't tell
So
you how reassuring that is. Yeah. But at the same time, occasionally I'm unreliable because I said something and then didn't deliver.
yeah,
And
that happens.
not great. Um, but I suppose in a way that's not what's brought me here. It's more to do with the seduction of more.
Yeah,
What's the
yeah,
next?
yeah. So would you go as far as to say that seeking has started again?
Yeah.
Mm. Here's an interesting one. So look, everything's really relaxed here. So there's no judges, there's no no criticism per se. So be relaxed. Um, just without being pedantic about language, that's where things get really difficult. If we just kind of use language in the normal way, and then we can question whether or not we mean it literally or otherwise. If I say I, you can ask me what I mean by that, and so on. Would you describe your experience that's happened since LU graduation, which is a shitty term, but yeah, um, would you say you went back to sleep somewhat?
No, no, I don't think so.
Right, so
Um,
you've never had any doubts about the existence of a self.
I don't have doubts. I don't have a self in the way that I presume I did before.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't.
and that's
Yeah.
obviously
I've still
very
got a.
clear for you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if I'm really poke about,
Yeah,
it's
but you
not there.
you you don't have to poke about. You
Yeah,
just remember that you've already done the poking about, eh?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think that the last sort of bit for me was very much to do with suspending doubt. I mean, I'm a very skeptical person, and it was I sort of was there with the whole notion, but then there was just this sort of free floating doubt. Um, uh, and then there's something, I sat, I had got some good instructions and I sat with it and it went away. So um, I
yep,
don't have doubt
yeah,
about that, but I still have, I just wonder whether, I've got this framework with a next thing and wouldn't it be wonderful? And
yeah.
um,
Okay, yeah.
I do feel
So
that doubt is in the way of that. Something, I don't know.
try stories. I like stories. So the story that turns up here is that you seem pretty clear to me about at least that fundamental platform of a self. And if we extend that you tell me how you feel or don't feel about these if it jumps up for you. So if we require a foundation of a self in order to believe that we make a choice about things. Yeah. In order to think that we control circumstances, what's going to happen. In order to feel responsible for other people's emotional reactions. That's a bit harder, that one, isn't it? But yeah, you're nodding like you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So if I put my stethoscope around my neck and pretend I'm the doctor, and the prognosis that I've arrived at here, just a story that's popped up, is that what's happened is something like integration didn't happen properly. Um, the when seeking dropped, let me ask a question. Was there a point after seeking dropped, after LU, where you recognised that this work is never done, that it's going to go forever and ever for you? Is there any point where that happened?
I suppose that happened. Yes, I think that did happen. Yeah, I think that did happen.
Okay. So would you see this current, I don't like calling it seeking, but it sounds a bit dirty to me. But would you imagine that has turned up is simply further? It's simply that notion of further, more?
Well, I suppose I had a strong intellectual understanding of the nature of self, not self, way before something opened up, and now I've got a strong intellectual understanding that I'm part of that. That I'm sort of bobbing around on something much bigger, and I haven't got that in the same way.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So would you describe this? Let's just call it the more thing. This thing of more. Would you describe that as something you're trying to pull in to yourself? Are you clutching, grasping for that? Or would you say it's just turned up saying, now's the time? Or would it be that it's demanding attention? Kind of, I'm trying to build a spectrum there that that you can go from that to that kind of thing. Are you pulling it in, or is it coming at you, kind of thing?
Well, I think there's a curiosity about it, and I think sometimes, just sometimes, there's a sort of flicker of, gosh, and then there's some sort of, belonging to me sort of preconception that something needs to be done.
Okay, so there you go. Let's just stop on that one. That's a good one. So what I'm getting, so I just need to know more.
Yeah,
But
sorry.
and now it's all right. What I'm thinking is that, look, we can see through those essential illusions, and we can see through them clearly. And there's no doubt that they've been broken, if you like. We've seen through them. Yet certain behaviors, emotions, whatever it is, can turn up shouting out that it's not the case, that we've seen through this stuff. Right? It's still old stuff, but it's there by habit. It's not really there with a foundation. It's an empty shell almost. It just turns up because we haven't really learned a new way, but enough for it to be automatic. The old way, is a great habit. We've been doing it for a long time. So, of course, it gets triggered all the time by things. And when we look at it, we can see it's hollow, it's empty, it's nothing there. But yet it still turns up. Now, the thing is, do we get sucked into thinking we've got to fix this? This is not right. If we get sucked into that, we're identifying again, which is just another opportunity for us to clean out a bit more. That's always the case. There's never a good or bad. It is what it is. So one way to look at it, one story that I come up with is that what we're looking at with this whole, let's call it a process of waking up, is firstly the big strong one, we need to break identification with thoughts. So we do that, and the way LU does that is it teaches you what direct experience is, or helps you to experience that. And then you recognize that everything else is conceptual. And then you start to realize that, wow, in the old way, we took a lot of these concepts and related to them like they were actual, when they're just stories. So once we've broken that kind of big, heavy-duty identification, there's still automatic things that get triggered, that come up, that behave as if identification is still there, even if it's not. And the trick is to see it for what it is, rather than what the old way story creation adds meaning to it. It doesn't mean things that you think it means. That's just what the mind says all the time. And so because those things, there's no doubt that something's happened to you from before LU or before whatever even took you to LU. It's been coming on for forever and ever, probably all your life. Most of us, it is that way. But there's a I'm up on the soapbox here. There's a thing that says, ask the question of this, whatever this is, your gut, your intuition. That's a good way to put it. You kind of know what I mean by that. Ask the question, is this just an empty shell, a reflection of the old way that's turned up? Or is it telling me that there's some work to be done? Now, even though you can grab work to be done and laugh at that, that's a whole ridiculous notion. But nevertheless, is that the feeling there that this this has got some substantiality, or is it hollow? Is it just nothing? These days when things turn up for me, it could be taken either way. It could be going, yeah, we've discovered that you're still identifying there. And then another part of me says, so what? Who cares? Doesn't matter. So I could knuckle down and focus on it and do something about it. But it doesn't happen enough to be worthwhile doing that. It's just, when it happens, I don't care. If I get angry, well, that's it. I've got angry. I know what I mean. I know where it's come from. But it doesn't happen daily like it used to before.
Okay.
I can't remember the last time it happened. It could be weeks or months ago. I don't know. It's like, another way to put this is the end of this path, the hero who's woken up to whatever level, it doesn't matter. That mythical hero at the end of the path, or 2/3 of the way down I don't know, who cares? But that mythical hero, with this kind of waking up on this path, it's not the emptiness path and it's not the fullness or the energetic. We're not having Kundalini things. It's a psychological path. Well, the hero at the end says, bring it on, baby. It doesn't touch me. It's because there's no one here to get affected by it. So it's really very much a case of being relaxed about whatever turns up, knowing that whatever turns up, nothing means anything. We just make up stories about what things mean. So if it turns up and you don't worry about it, you respond differently to it than if you believe a story that says, this means you've got something to do, you've got to fix it.
So are you saying, if rewinding on your life, that it didn't come with a whoosh, the whole package, and that you're telling this story looking back, telling the story looking back, right?
Yeah. No, there was a whoosh for me. It wasn't really huge, but I did have a psychedelic trip kind of experience when it happened. I don't even remember how long it lasted for now, but I'm kind of imagining that it was a couple of days that it happened for me. I do remember some rather strange experiences that I had, but that was it. Never since, I've not experienced the dark night of the soul kind of thing that other people experience. I think I went through all of that before I woke up. Because I was been chasing things all my life, So, I don't, but see, we got to be careful telling these stories because everybody's different. Nobody does it like anybody else. So there's lots to talk about. There's lots to kind of look at from this perspective. See, if you finished LU, this is why I started these groups in the first place. I saw people graduate at LU, get joined up to the Unleashed Facebook group, and that was it. See you later. Nothing ever happened. And I'm just wondering how many people just went back to sleep, just the old ways. They can't talk to this stuff with their family or their neighbours. So who do they? And if they're totally alone with it, well, it just falls off the radar. This stuff requires being kept active for it to continue to mature. So that's one of the things that happens with these groups. You're just here with a bunch of other weirdos like yourself that you can talk to about this stuff without feeling like it's something strange. Yeah. And if you come up with problems, well, we can poke at them. Love that. Love doing that. Yeah. So I'm glad you're here. I was super glad you're here.
Thank you so much, and thanks everybody.
Everybody's Declan today, and Jed, and End. Yeah. How have you been, Declan?
Hey, Vince. It's lovely to listen to you then. So I have to put my glasses on. Kate. Sorry, Kate. um, yeah, it's just still that anxiety is just there a lot. Well, it feels like a lot. I don't know, actually. Never quantified it. But I also think it's got a little bit better. I'm back at work, so I've had 2 weeks in school with no kids, so I think being busy has just distracted me, if nothing else, which is good. Is good. But yeah, I don't know really, Vince. Don't know what else to say. Just kind of like some sadness, anxiety, and then at times okayness. Yeah, yeah.
You make it sound like the okayness is the exception.
No, you know, it's probably not. It's probably not. I think it's because the anxiety feels like it's there kind of upon awakening, which is a bugger. As that's, you know, it's like, ugh, really.
Yep. Have you ever tried this? Have you ever tried asking your anxiety what it's trying to tell you? It's a game we play, all right?
Yeah, tried that quite a lot.
You've asked it, what's the message?
It just depends. Sometimes, a lot of the time, I don't really get an answer. But I was doing a lot of stuff around just really feeling the sensation and where the border is, and you know, has it got a collar and all of that, and just really feeling it, and then asking it, is there a message? The closest thing I got was like, I'm protecting you. You know, that you need, you know, yeah. And I was thanking it. We probably realised that I wasn't thanking it really. I was going, just fuck off and leave me alone. But I was genuinely like, you know, it's so difficult, that stuff, isn't it? Well, I find it difficult because it's like, you know, it's not to get rid of it, but really it is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll get rid of it, but we just can't go at it directly, that's all.
Yeah. But it does really seem to help if I just go right into just feel like physically feel and try to forget what because that's where the suffering is. I know I can
you see
I can
it.
see it. I think there's nothing wrong. There's just a tingling sensation, maybe a little
that makes it all worse though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I've got no reason to feel this. I should feel guilty that I'm feeling it.
Yeah, it's literally just whatever is whirring away here. It's like, okay, thank you. Next. But that does help. That does help. Just feeling it. But I am kind of heartily sick of it now.
I missed that last part.
I just said I am kind of heartily sick of it now. It's like,
yeah, I get that. Yeah, stiff shit.
That's enough now. Come on.
Yeah. When you get, let's give, for the sake of an exercise, let's give the message that it told you some validity, some credibility, that it is trying to protect you.
Yeah.
You could come back and say, well, I don't need protecting, you know, which would be a bit of a swagger and a bit of an ego thing, kind of thing. And it's just going to laugh at you and says, well, you know, you're bullshitting to me. You could go, what are you protecting me from? Now, when you asked that question, when I asked that question just then, you already knew that what it was protecting you from doesn't have any actual substantiality.
Yeah.
It's a belief that you've adopted somewhere along the line that you need protecting.
Yeah.
And of course, if we just look at that a little bit, of course you need protecting because you feel vulnerable. You feel threatened. Maybe not threatened, maybe that's pushing it a bit hard, but at least you feel that danger could occur.
Feeling vulnerable, This could happen, that could happen, who knows, you know.
And isn't it interesting that it's not really clear what it is it's trying to protect you against?
That's lovely. What you just said, Vince. Like that question, because what I've been doing is saying, "Oh, thank you, thanks for trying to keep me safe." Whereas it's kind of, okay, well, what is it exactly that you're protecting me from? That's because it's definitely not definitely not clear. Definitely not. I don't. Yeah. There's this fear, the fear. I don't. Some of this, like, I just think, oh, it's just story. But
that's all right. That's a good way to get at it.
Man.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thank you. But the fear I had was that this was going to just carry on. It was just going to last. That seems fair. Like, okay, I can handle some anxiety. I can handle. I'm not going to call it depression anymore, but I can handle melancholy or sadness. But what I can't handle is linking that into a time story, and this is just going to carry
never
on.
end.
Yeah. And I figured out somewhere, kind of meditating or doing something, that was a real fear. That was what my head was saying, was like, this is going to carry on. You know, this isn't going anywhere. You're not sorting this out. This is just going to carry on. Yep. And that felt really dark and horrible, and
And the part of you that knows that that's not based on anything substantial, it didn't get much of an airing, did it?
No, it doesn't. It's so frustrating, Vince, because it's like, and I know that. I know I've been here before, and it's like, no, it passes. It passes. It always passes. Even the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. And I could say, yeah, but it comes back again. But it's not really. And the really weird thing is, Vince, that something did. I couldn't call it, seeing through the self, or there wasn't a whoosh, but something happened over the summer with the ayahuasca thing, and before that, and this feels different. It's like anxiety or sadness, but not as you know it, Jim. Like, it does feel different, but I can't kind of put my finger on what it is. It's just, it's kind of got a different texture to it, like kind of almost like I know it's not real, I know it's not, but it's still persisting, shall we say.
So what jumped up for me then was, but it's still persisting. And that had a great big heavy story hanging off it that went something along the lines of, and that means that you're stuck in hell forever.
Yeah, that's the real dark. Yeah, I'm down in this hole, and just got to stay there, kid. Just got to make the best of it. Yeah.
But then you have times in between that where it's fine, eh?
Yeah.
But when you're thinking about that deep dark hole, you don't think about those respite periods.
No, it just kind of comes on as a woof. Right, there you go. You're in it. Yeah. So like almost like by definition, it's not true, but the
but it's
whatever.
there. But it's there. You see,
Yeah.
we can't argue with the fact that it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever story's been told is definitely there, even though it's a story. It's there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Most certainly. Yeah.
See, when you see through the stories, I just wrote one today actually about that. When you see through the stories, and yet we still behave as if we believe the stories are true, which we don't. We see through them, and yet there is this experience that turns up. It's like the foundation is still there when it's not. The moment you look, you know it's not. You don't even have to look. You can remember that you've looked and there's nothing there. Yet it still turns up. One story that, I don't know how it turned up, but that felt good to me about all of that was that it's your nervous system that needs realigning. And it's going to get realigned two ways. The old way will atrophy through lack of use, very slowly, as old ways do. And a new way will get established through practice. And you only have to do it 10,000 times for it to become automatic.
Only 10,000.
So 9,950 to go.
No, but that's really interesting here, because I'm resonating a lot with that, Vince, because through doing some shadow work with other people and this kind of going this way and swerving that way, I've come to looking at doing the TRE exercises, the tremor release, and that seems to be doing something around kind of releasing some trapped stuff up here. Yeah. And it does feel like that. It feels like a habit. It feels like kind of, come on, you like Vince just said, that the foundation isn't there, but it's almost like I'm so used to it that it's just, I'm presuming it is when it isn't, if that makes any sense at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's another one that doesn't make, a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense actually, but the other one that I mentioned to Kate earlier on is that it doesn't matter how bad it is, if all of a sudden it's not there, we're going to miss it. We're going to react in different ways the way we miss it, but there can be grief about it. And sometimes if you look at it ahead of time, it can be that it's saying, well, if you get rid of me, you're going to miss me. And so we don't get rid of it because of that promise, rather than deal with the missing of it afterwards. I mean, I don't know any of this stuff. Who knows how true any of it is, but it's just a possibility,
Yeah, certainly.
That regardless, and good heavens, how many abused housewives stay with their abuser and don't leave? I mean, that's obviously a much more complex situation, but it's frequent. And even to the point, and I don't know how frequent these days, but in the old days when I was working in that sector a bit, they would get out of one abusive relationship and have to start a new relationship, and he would turn out to be abuser too. That's pretty amazing. So it's something in the psyche that kind of wants to hang on to shit, even if it's unpleasant.
It's the comfort of knowing that. I remember a therapist saying that to me with depression, Shani, even though like it is this dark hole, it's it's familiar.
It's your dark hole, that's right. Yeah,
like the unknown can be more scary, or your mind can. Yeah. Hey. It's interesting though, but sorry, I don't want to kind of might not be relevant. Oh, you shut up yourself. You know me too well by now. But I have genuinely got some health stuff going on, like after all the lung stuff and the vaping, it turns out it is my heart, and I've had quite tests in the UK that I'm just getting the results of now. My heart's beating too fast. I've got an aortal fibrillation or a
and my wife's got that.
Right. But the doctor said I'm at risk of a stroke, so I need to go on blood thinning medication while they
give you
out
beta blockers.
I'm on the beta blockers now. But I just thought, oh, that's really interesting that there actually is a not anxiety. What I mean is like it's kind of there has been a few months a physical thing, and I just thought, right,
so maybe you've been feeling what your heart's telling you, and you call it anxiety.
No, but really, I just thought, flipping heck, could this all be, a bit of a dodgy ticker getting on? But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
Just as well you've given up the smoking, eh?
I felt like saying, so that was a waste of time. It wasn't my lungs, because the fast heartbeat was causing my breathlessness and whatnot. But no, we're not. We're not going back there.
Good.
Yeah. Actually, I've got to go. I've only got a bit of time today. Just I'll listen later. It was really lovely to chat.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Declan. Yeah. How are you, John?
Pretty good, Vince.
Well, pretty good's not good enough. I want you jumping over the moon.
Maybe tomorrow.
So do you feel like things are moving in a good direction for you? Not moving?
I don't know. They're not moving in a bad direction. I can say that much. Yeah. I just came in on the end of the previous conversation, but yeah, all I have to say is that I think I mentioned it to you when we chatted, that I find myself going into stories and just reminding myself that it is a story has been helpful the last few weeks. Yeah. Catching myself at my own story making. Or story making. Yeah.
Yeah. And remembering that we're not trying to stop them. We're just trying to recognize them for what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a circular thing, or a spiral or something, just as a concept, a way to look at it. That we start with recognizing that a lot of the stories that we gave credibility to, that we unthinkingly made them legitimate, behaved as if they were actual, all of that stuff that we've been conditioned with all of our life, we need to break the blind obedience to that. And we do that by recognizing the value that the body has for us, the sensations have. And so we downplay the value of stories. But once we've broken that automatic identification with the content of stories and start to see stories for what they are, which is just the product of an unknown thing, the mind, whatever. Then there's a short period where sensations have a lot more importance for us. They become the storyteller. Instead of the mind being the storyteller, the sensations become the storyteller. And so we're interpreting things in a much more objective, literal way. We recognise that our perspective is shaded by all of our beliefs.
So is that what you're saying, when you ask people what is actually here, what is here now?
Mm.
Yeah. But no, I've been referring to that.
Yep.
I don't know if it's not a practice, but just that idea and and coming back to the body. Yeah, and again, I found that quite helpful. It just calms. It's calming,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Because I mean, a bit like again, I came in on the end of Declan. Was it Declan who was just here before?
Yes, yeah.
Declan. Yeah, there. I've heard him talk before, and there are quite a few points at which I can relate in terms of nervous system and a lifelong preoccupation with melancholic or depressive, thoughts and episodes, and they become a habit. I think when I was younger, I used to. I somehow made the. I felt that these very strong negative feelings, because they were so strong, they somehow were more true than the lighter feelings, and and I felt that was the truer bit of me or something.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
good to have, go back to the body and the sensations and say, well, I wake up with this sensation, this pit in my stomach, and then I create a story around, feeling depressed or despair or whatever it is. Yep.
Yep. And it's that connection thing that's very much where to look, that. So the fact that the story gets created is really neither here nor there. Our reaction to it is going to be very much in proportion with how much we believe it, which is really, you can imagine it, I put it this way, that it's a story about something, but it's got other stories hanging off it that say it's true. And that if they're strong, those stories about saying it's true, then we give it more credibility.
Yeah.
But you're right, absolutely right. The intensity, the loudness or the intensity of something also gives it credibility. It's not legitimate credibility, but it gets it from that. It's like if people who are talking to somebody and they don't understand, they immediately raise their volume, thinking that that's going to fix it. Of course, it doesn't, does it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So just I don't want to confuse things, but at the same time, I feel it's appropriate to just point out to you that what I said before about having stories that we believe are real and then we discover that they're actually just concepts, but we change our response to them. We break that blind obedience to our thoughts, and then we give, we can imagine that our physical senses, which respond to what is actually there from the outside, because they also respond to the content of thought on the inside, which makes it a little bit tricky. But so if we just look at the outside stuff, then that's a way of focusing away from the idea that the concepts are actual, that they're real, that they have some credibility. And so we can start to imagine that instead of our mind producing all these stories, our body starts producing stories, and those stories come up in response to the sensations that are experienced, the emotions that turn up, and so on. But there's the next step, the one I'm not wanting to confuse you with, but I want to introduce you, and I don't have to do anything with it at this stage, is that those sensations turned up because of stories as well. But those stories are not obvious. They're unconscious. But still they're there. That's what the sensation responded to. But all we're concerned with is our connection to them, our belief in them. And once we recognize that that is also conditioned, it's learned. And our teachers had the same teachers. They taught us the same thing they were taught. So it gets passed on from generation to generation.
Yeah.
These what we take to be real, you know. Our parents had certain sayings that they gave a lot of weight to, and so on.
So you don't need to go chasing the beliefs
No.
underlie these things. They arise. You just pay attention.
Yeah.
So much.
You'll never catch them by chasing them. Now, acceptance, on the other hand, is an invitation for them to show themselves, and they may or may not. They don't. It's not required that they do. So it doesn't matter if they don't, but they may or may. If they don't feel threatened, they'll show themselves to you. But if you go chasing them, they're going to get defensive.
It's not required to see them.
No, it's just your connection to it. And when you recognise that, even though I don't know the details of it, what I can see is that it is a concept. It is potential that I'm responding to, not actual.
Can you give me an example, Vince? I know you've written lots of stories recently. I know I've read some of them.
Yeah.
So we're talking about beliefs. You don't have to understand the belief.
Yeah. So you can arrive at the conclusion that you are responding to a belief based on the evidence that you're having a particular experience.
Okay.
And that experience is not relating to anything physically present in your circumstances at the moment directly. You can't attribute what you're experiencing to those things directly. They may add up to, they may be the triggers for that, but that's just reminding you of another situation, another time.
Yeah.
But so you recognize, and so this is where it gets a bit. You need to learn to trust yourself, to trust your intuition, right? And how you do that is recognize that your intuition has a certain flavor. When it talks to you, it'll still appear as a thought, but it'll be, or a story, you know, so not a single thought, not a statement. It'll be a whole story, but it will appear to you but it will be very soft, and it will be a suggestion. It won't be an order. You know, those are the orders, they come from the mind, whereas the intuition just says, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. It feels good to move in that direction and not that one, and so on. So it's all very prospective, the way that intuition talks to you. But you know, again, you don't need to worry about that at this stage, because that's. But you're close to that point where you're recognizing that all those gross stories about how things work are not true. You recognize they're not. And so consequently, you know, it's a case of swimming in that until it becomes familiar. And it will become more and more familiar. And then it'll fade out. It'll become so ordinary it won't be noticeable. that at this stage, every time you experience something that you would call unpleasant, right, that you might go as far as call it suffering or not. I mean, it's an overdone word, that one. I don't actually know what it is anymore. But anything that you experience that you would describe as uncomfortable is a trigger that, hello, we've got a message for you. Something's going on. And 90% of it is going to be not actual. In the beginning, this amazing brain that we've got, I don't think that there's a machine that can measure the actual time it takes for a thought to turn up or how long it remains before it's gone. I think that happens faster than any clock, any stopwatch can work.
Yeah.
I mean, even if we're looking at an MRI, if we're looking at a brain scan, you know, we just see an area light up, but it doesn't it doesn't even come close to what actually happens. It's just a visual representation of an area, when in actual fact, very precise neurons have done their thing. There's a lot of, I could make up half a dozen red pills or blue pills or green pill, whatever the colours are supposed to be. But pills to give you to wake up, you know, there could be all sorts of different portals into what that would see, you know. But there's a point where we stop talking about waking up because we recognise that it's like saying that car's red. You know, there's 100 different reds around. How do you know? How can you describe when you just say it's red? Well, it's the same thing with this waking up stuff. You know, it just seems to be a different perspective and therefore different responses to the meaning that we put on what life offers us. Seems crazy when you can say, well, you know, that person, this mythical person, their life is full of suffering, and that's because they respond to stories the way they respond to stories. They've got shitty stories. You know, so let's just write a script out and give it to them with better stories, and then they won't suffer anymore. Doesn't work, does it? We've got a YouTube full of people offering those things. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yet I could line up pretty well everybody that's ever woken up. And no matter how focused my questions are, I'm never going to be able to experience what they experience. They're not going to be able to tell me precisely enough to communicate anything actual. All they can do is simplify things and build a bit of a story around it to transmit a flavour that might or might not be even close to what it is they experienced. So
I get the impression it's easy to say what it's not.
I guess, yeah, it would be, I guess, yeah. It's certainly not possible to say what it is. But you could never say what it's not in its entirety, you know, because it's different. What it's not is different. So what I was one of the things I was trying to get across a little bit earlier is that it's not what turns up. It's the flavour of the relationship to that what this stuff is all about. So when we're still a seeker, or when we first wake up, we have rigid rules kind of thing about, well, this means that and that means something else and that means, so we still have all these stories about what things mean. Give it some time and they don't mean that at all. You know, they don't mean, they could if you look at it from that perspective, but it doesn't matter. It's all irrelevant. You know, it really comes back to get on with life, whatever that is. Not resisting what life offers.
Is that what you were saying? Just going back to what you were saying before about when things arise as in your present experience of suffering, then it's not about what's happening. It's about some resistance to what's happening, triggering something else in you. Is that what you meant? Does that make any sense?
No, not quite. I was saying, well, I don't think I was mentioning resistance, but if we do consider resistance, yeah, that resistance is certainly going to give us a whole lot more to respond to, and end result is, we're headed down the wrong path. Because resistance makes it stronger, doesn't it? What it is we're trying to see through, and what we're trying to do is allow the old way to fall out of use, to fall out of automatic use. And it's like letting go of a habit. It takes a long time, and it doesn't happen easily to give up the old ways.
Yep.
But what does it mean if they old ways turn up? This is a really important one. What does it mean? Well, it means whatever you make it mean. Some people will write a story straight away saying, well, this means that I'm not awake. Bugger, I've got to go back to square one and start all over, or whatever. I don't know what their response will be. But anyway, that could be a story that comes up about what it means.
Yeah.
Or it could mean, okay, this looks like I've got some beliefs that I don't know about, that because it's come back a few times, it's telling me I should go and see what those beliefs are about. Or it could mean nothing. It's just something that turned up, and we don't need to do anything about it. We certainly don't get carried away by a story that it means something horrible. It's just what turned up. So something turns up and our first reaction is, oh no. But almost immediately we can go, that's the old way that used to happen all the time. It's no big deal. It just was that. But if it keeps knocking on the door, it's telling you something else, isn't it?
Mm.
But see, here's another interesting one. If something turns up for me, sometimes, depending on what it is, sometimes there'll be very quickly a story of what it means will form. But other times that's becoming more, well, it seems like the first one is happening less and less. So that just leads me to say that it's becoming more. And that is that stories about what it means don't turn up because they're irrelevant. They don't matter. At the very best, they're a creation based on what I know now. So what I'm getting at is that there's an amazing, beautiful freedom in knowing that it's a mystery and not caring about solving it.
Trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't have to figure it out. And in fact, I can come up with a story about it, but I know it's a story, so it's not going to be the truth. It's not going to be. It's only accurate from my perspective. So it's not. It doesn't. There's nothing absolute about it, and I can't know what that absolute stuff is anyway. So I'm not going to get all excited about trying to work it out because I can't. The best I can come up with is an interpretation. So there's a flavour of carrying. I can't think of a word. It's not surrender. It's not acceptance, but it's kind of it has a flavour of that stuff, but it's not noticed enough to be called that. It's just a kind of an objective recognition that something's here, and that's it. It doesn't go any further. But knowing that I don't know what that something is, all I have is my interpretation. So what's the point of trying to narrow it down to some fictitious truth?
Mm.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's not even to say I'm really relaxed about that. It's just nothing. It's not a matter of being relaxed or being anxious or uptight about it at all. It's just like it's a fact, but I have no idea what the fact is. This is hard stuff to communicate. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm following you exactly, but I'm trying not to grasp too much.
Yeah. Well, if you just get the flavour of what I'm kind of pointing at, yeah, that's a big thing. It is. I just feel so incompetent with words to be able to make sense of what I'm saying. It's like, you know, what turns up is just this. And that's a fact because it can't be any other way. But there's no such thing as a fact. But so it is just what it is. But frequently it isn't noticeable.
What isn't noticeable?
Whatever this is.
Oh, okay. Not noticeable. You
Yeah,
can't.
it doesn't stand out as a better way to put it.
You can't
It's
grasp
not, it's not special. That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm smiling to myself a little bit because my mind is saying, you know, what am I supposed to do with that?
Good question. Right. And that's the same. Yeah, I love that. That's the same answer as for this whole thing we're talking about, you know. Do? What do you mean do? What are you going to do? What with that what the hell is that?
Yeah.
You know, hey, it's not possible to know. Yeah. So you can't. So if you can get that moment, that moment where there's an absolute realization, an acceptance, a recognition, if you like, that you can't move, you can't say anything, you can't do anything, you can't think anything. There is nothing available for you that gives you any influence over anything. If you can get that moment of, you might call it quietness, or you might call it silence, or you might call it perfect catch-22, you might call it stuck. You could call it all sorts of things. None of them are quite right, but there is this moment where you're absolutely helpless, and it's almost like everything stops in that moment. One way to maybe bring on that moment is to consider the nature of now. Is now a point on a timeline? Is now got any relationship to what this concept that we call the past, which is experienced as memory, or this concept about the future, which is fantasy? But now, is it a point in time between the past and the future? Or does it have existence? I mean, if you say, oh, now, well, by the time you get to the end of the word, there's a totally new now happening, isn't there? So you can't even, you can't freeze it, you can't lock it down. So if you really focus in on that, do that as a meditation, you might find you get to the point where you go, oh, and you can't do anything, you can't think anything, you just indescribable.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think I have experienced that. I mean, I think you might have even said yourself that we often experience those moments many times in a day, but our mind doesn't know what to do with them. So, you know, consider them irrelevant. But no, I do. And even just recently driving in the car, I mean, yeah, most of the time pretty much all the time, they come unbidden.
Yes, that's usually when they come, yeah.
I haven't done anything, you know, and the mind can come in very quickly and want to do something with it.
What I suggest as a possibility is that next time that you recognize that you're having one of those moments is that you anchor a feeling that you've got somewhere. There's going to be a weird, strange kind of feeling somewhere in your body that you can identify as belonging to that experience. And if you can anchor that in your mind, lock it down as a memory, then it almost gives you the ability to go there at will. You just simply have to remember it again, and you'll have elements of it turn up. And from that place is where you do your investigating. That's where you look for what is actual, what is here, what is not here, what's made up. Another exercise that's a bit more koan-like is contemplate what is here before any words turn up. That'll take you to the same place. How have you been, Jed?
Just have a second. Oh. Yeah, I wrote a song a while back. It's called "Shit and Shine," and basically the chorus is, "Oh, I'd love to be always happy, and for some folks, well, maybe that's the way, but for me, my friend, it's a mixed bag. Yeah, full of shit and shine every day." That kind of sums it up, I think.
Yeah, well done. Yeah.
But not too much shit, to be honest. Not a lot of shit, and not too smelly or sticky. Just a bit without grossing out, wishing to gross out. I've
So
been
maybe, yeah, go on.
okay. Yeah, a couple of things that seem remarkable are I've noticed myself trusting more that life will I guess that everything, I mean, it's just so vague, but if I get a bit specific, so I live in a co-housing community, and we have jobs to do, a certain amount of hours expected, and it's often a bit of a tension or worry of we're doing enough, and I don't feel very much urge to do more. I've got an idea that it would be good, perhaps, but I don't. It's not happening. So I guess in the past I've thought, oh, let me see if I can find out where there's some hours in the week where I'm free, but I don't. I notice myself just with the idea that, well, life will move me where I need to move, and I guess the feedback from the world and the community will be part of that life moving me, and I don't need to try and puzzle it out and force myself to do anything. So that's a noticeable change that seems good. And the other thing is, I'm really in the habit of doing practices morning, evening, and I mean, over the years, I've had a lot of kind of confusion about what I'm doing. I've never really aligned to a school or a tradition very much, although I was a yoga teacher, so that's quite a big thing for me. So, you know, as I've been coming to your meetings, that's kind of been getting more confusing, I suppose, whether to do anything, whether I can do anything. Is there a good thing? Is there a useful thing? Is there any useful thing I can do? But as I don't know if you still think this, but I was listening to an old meeting the other day, and you were saying something like, what we're doing here is cultivating the right brain tendency. So I thought, all right, well, I'll just look up a few activities that cultivate right brain leaning. And so that's what I've decided is going to be, well, I'm doing stuff like that. Instead of doing yoga poses, now I'm putting on some nice music, and I'm going with my gut. And the idea is, I wonder if there's any spontaneous, new, creative movement or posture that will happen that I haven't done before, maybe. And, you know, it feels kind of playful. And I did it today, and I ended up doing a great practice, you know, of loads of things I don't think I've ever done before, you know, really not yoga really, but
But
exercise.
with that same flavour, yeah.
Yeah. So that, you know, that feels good.
Yeah, so I mean, one way you could approach yoga is that you get a teacher and that he teaches you these asanas, and then you have a routine where you exercise, work your way through a range of them. You know, could be just to salute the sun or whatever you do. And you know, not to criticise that. I mean, that's appropriate for some people. Again, it's what is your relationship to what you're doing. That's where the value is for you in doing it, you know. So I mean, yoga could be seen as more like Pilates or something. It can be seen as physical exercise, flexibility exercises. On the other hand, if you're doing a pose and you relax into that pose, it can change from something physical to something, I don't know how you would describe it, something else as well, depending. So I was always drawn to doing very slow postures, you know, really allowing the body to kind of feel into, to the extent that the body's happy to go. You know, I wasn't into inflicting pain on myself, but if I didn't go to the edge of pain, then it wasn't as valuable, so to speak. So, you know, a lot of it depends on just so it sounds like today, what I was trying to get at is that there's also, rather than you doing what you've been taught, is that you allow what you've been taught to take whatever place it does in your memory, in your body memory or whatever or like that. And you ask the body, you let the body lead you into what to do. It knows, you know, you
That's what I'm
stretch
doing.
here, yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of you doing yoga, yoga's doing you, if you like. it's a bit hard not to get into the idea of more and better kind of thing. That just seems to come naturally, and it's a bit anti this. It's saying this is inadequate. Let's go further. Let's do more. Let's change something. And sometimes that's appropriate. But if you're in touch with what your body is saying about preferences, etc., that's a pretty subtle level of and it's an acute level of awareness. You know, we mostly don't even recognise we've got a body because we're so busy with what's going on in our mind, and our body has to follow. But once we break the mental conditioning, what then takes a long time, I think, it's certainly still happening for me after 14 odd years, is that the body conditioning, we're still left with that. Now, sometimes that's unhealthy. How much food I want to eat is definitely unhealthy. Who knows if it'll ever change? So I want to ask you this, Jed. Can you see, can you twist your awareness or consciousness around to whatever angle you need to be to see that there's no difference between the up and the down, that what we used to call good and bad, those circumstances, some will result in us reacting pleasantly, and others will cause an unpleasant reaction. But they both do the same thing. It's a very, very subtle one. Where
what do you mean they do the same thing?
The only difference between them is if you're going to label one of them good and one of them not good, or even go as far as to say bad. Just, you know, but see, that's a judgment that you put on it. Well, it might be a description. It might not be a judgment. It might be a description that one of them gives me a pleasant feeling and the other one gives me an unpleasant feeling. So that's a description of. But we arrive at those two different places in the same way by responding to the story.
It makes sense what you're saying, and I think, you know, sometimes I see things that way, but when the bad things happen, yeah, it's a good point in to look at those stories that come up when I'm reacting to that. Usually a kind of fear or worry that I'm getting it wrong, which is it's quite a persistent one for me, there are a lot of it often in the background or the foreground.
Mm.
And then fears about what it's going to lead to, or the impact.
Yeah. That persistence tells you something. That tells you that it may well be worth looking at that a bit deeper. Yeah. But you've got the tools. You know how to do that.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm looking at that. Yeah, and writing about it. Yeah, and as I remember more often that, oh, that's that story again. Less blended with it.
Yep.
There's so many of them. There's so many stories, are there? So much conditioning. So many convincing ideas and beliefs that I haven't, dismantled, and or that I'm not kind of still in my blind spot or something,
Or they could just be shells that turn up. That's worth considering now, that you can see through, that you see that there's no foundation for it, yet it still happens. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. And the moment you recognise that, oh, there's that again, it'll go just with that recognition of it. And there's nobody measuring. There's no rewards for having only so many left or anything like that. If thoughts turn up for you, Kate, to say something, you just jump in. Don't be polite.
It's just so terrific to hear you all talk. I just feel busting with gratitude. I really am.
Excellent. Yeah.
There's something sort of, I can't allow myself to say real, but there's some sort of just a curiosity from everybody that talks. And I love it that, I mean, we've only got the words, and somehow, but there's more going on than the words. So sorry, I don't want to be too analytical about it.
Yep. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. It's always I'm constantly amazed that somebody will watch the video and will comment on a sentence that you've said that you don't even remember saying, and they'll go, yeah, that really did it for me. I had a reaction to that. Yeah, that kind of thing happens so much. Yeah. So even though there's only 4 of us here at the moment tonight, most of the videos get seen around about 200 times. So a lot of people will watch them and rewatch them, so they're getting something out of them. Yeah.
I'll rewatch it. I'll rewatch this. I know I will. I'm just planning when I can do it.
Yeah, good one. Mm. All right. Well, unless you guys have come up with something else in the next few minutes, we'll wind up. Eh? John left. And Kate, come early, come late, drop off. You don't have to say goodbye. Just go or come. That's fine. Really relaxed as you hopefully you get. Yeah. All right. Good night, everybody.
Cheers, Vince. Good night, man. Bye, Kate.